On the line with us is our old buddy Greg Palast, the investigative journalist, the author of his most recent book, How Trump Stole 2020. GregPalast.com is his website. He's got a great newsletter. You need to subscribe to it there, and it's free. And also his Twitter handle is @Greg_Palast, P-A-L-A-S-T. Greg, welcome back. Tell us about this.
Well, in Colorado, you have a berserko judge, in other words, appointed by Trump. Agree with Judicial Watch, the right-wing vote suppression hit squad of lawyers, using the National Voter Registration Act, which is supposed to protect voters, right? That's why the law was passed. And they're using the NVRA to sue the state of Colorado, and the judge went along with this so far, so giving them a trial, which will allow them to claim that they have to start purging the voter rolls of Colorado. Now, we've been through this purge game for a very long time. I've been studying it investigating since Catherine Harris purged black people back in 2000, 58,000 black men, and that elected George Bush. Well, it's rolled on and gotten more sophisticated, and they've taken it now to Colorado. And the judge says, yeah, we can have a trial to force the state to start purging the voter rolls. It's a complete phony. I mean, their evidence, and I can tell you, I used to teach statistics among the other crazy things I've done, and their so-called statistics are that, there are thousands of people on the voter rolls who are inactive and dead, and they've moved away. Well, you have these giant voter rolls. Well, yeah, so what? But you haven't seen zombies walking into Colorado voter booths. We haven't seen Canadians marching in on their mooses. We haven't seen people voting from prisons. But so there's no evidence, absolutely zero, none, of a single, not even one. They couldn't produce a single fraudulent vote. But they're saying, well, could be, and the judge is going along with it. Very, very dangerous stuff.
Is this, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but Colorado has a Democratic governor and a Democratic Secretary of State. How is this happening?
Because you have a Trump judge, so that's why they're suing, because they're trying to. He's letting
the legislature do this. I mean,
what he's saying is that they're suing to force the Democratic Secretary of State Griswold,
right,
to begin purging the voter rolls of Colorado. Now, they're very sharp at this, Judicial Watch. They've done this successfully, by the way, in Pennsylvania, the key swing state. And what they're trying to do is force the state to join a program called ERIC, which is we've investigated ERIC for the, when I say we, the Palast investigative team and experts have gone through the ERIC list in the state of Wisconsin for Black Voters Matter. We found that about a third of the list is made up completely of students and black people who are legal voters, but they're on this hit list as movers. You move your dorm room from one building to another, and they say, oh, you're a ghost voter or you've left the state. This is what they're trying to do. They did it in Pennsylvania. That's why Pennsylvania was close, because they removed a lot of people who should not have been removed. Georgia's just adopted this system. Florida's just adopted this system. Pennsylvania's adopted this system. And now they want to force through a Trump judge.
So is ERIC the new interstate cross-check, or only it's state-specific? It's just being done state by state rather than some sort of national list that Chris Kansas Kobach came up with?
Well, this is son of interstate cross-check. Our campaign really defeated interstate cross-check. It's dead. It's done. Mm-hmm. And but out of the crypt came this new son of cross-check, ERIC, which they're trying to impose on Colorado. Now, again, you have a legislature and a Senate. You have a Democratic governor, Democratic Secretary of State, who are saying we're not going along with this nonsense. But you have a court misusing a voter protection law to remove protections from
right. That law in 1993 is sometimes referred to as the Motor Voter Act. That was the one that required states to allow people to register to vote when they get the driver's license. It also is the only law on the books that both in its preamble and in the black letter law of, black letter part of the law itself, says that all American citizens have a right to vote. I mean, that literally, that language is in there. And for some reason, the Supreme Court, and that was 1993, as I recall, and for some reason, the Supreme Court completely ignored that in the Bush v. Gore decision when they ruled that if the Florida recount was actually conducted, it would cause irreparable harm to plaintiff George W. Bush.
Well, yeah, it would have. If you counted all the votes in Florida, it would have irreparably harmed non-President Bush.
Right.
So, yes, so what they're doing is, you're correct. The law, which seems to be erased in an Orwellian manner by this federal judge, a law that's supposed to protect voters, is being used to force the purging of voters. And I have to tell you, because I have the law virtually memorized, that the law specifically says you do not have to purge voters from the voter rolls. It says that the voter rolls must be accurate. Now, that doesn't mean that you start removing students and African Americans and in Colorado Hispanics. Look, the last time that there was a Colorado Republican as Secretary of State, they removed 50,000 people who were ex-cons. They said, well, we're going to remove all the ex-cons from the voter rolls. But guess what? Colorado doesn't have any law which prohibits ex-cons from voting. But they removed 50,000 people.
Oh, geez.
So this is the game that they're playing.
So it's, the apocryphal statement from Joe Stalin, and I've never been able to find an actual source of him saying this.
Oh, I know what you're going to say, and he really said it.
Okay.
Who counts the votes?
Yeah,
he really said it.
I don't care who votes. What matters to me is who counts the votes. And
that's correct.
And in this case, it's I don't care who registers to vote or tries to vote. I just care who's on the legal voting roll, because I can give provisional ballots to people who aren't on those rolls. They'll think that they voted, their vote will never get counted, and we get to win elections.
That's right. So it's the abuse of laws that were meant to protect voters, like we were mentioning, for example, the provisional ballots, of which there were about 2.7 million in the last election, or a little less. And about 1 million were not counted, mostly cast by African Americans. The provisional ballot was created to protect voters who were wrongly removed from the rolls. Instead, it's been used as basically a dumpster when black voters come in, especially young black males from the statistics, and Asian American young males are handed provisional ballots, and then they don't get counted on all kinds of cockamamie grounds. So it's an abuse of the language of voting rights bills. I'm very concerned, by the way. I'm going to be very honest with you, Tom, and a lot of people won't like to hear this, but there's a lot of dangers in the For the People Act. John Lewis Act would stop this Judicial Watch hit job on Colorado in its tracks. The John Lewis law would restore the Voting Rights Act and allow the Justice Department to say, come on, you can't get away with this. We have to pre-clear it, and that means that we have to review this. And it's looking
increasingly like if one of those two pieces of legislation is going to pass, it's not going to be the For the People Act. There's just, Manchin and Sinema have dug their heels in. It would probably be the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
Well, I hope we get the Lewis Act, because what it does is it restores the Voting Rights Act and puts some real juice into it. That's where we should be putting our efforts, into the John Lewis Act. It would stop this case in its tracks, assuming that our Attorney General will be doing his job. I know that we've got a terrific new Civil Rights Division at the Justice Department, which, until a year ago was the Injustice Department. It's not all bad news, though. I should mention that we just won a big case in North Carolina for voting rights, in which the court there said that you cannot require ex-cons to pay a bunch of fines and court costs that you can't even know what they are in order to vote. So that was the bad. I don't want to say it's all grim. Let's not go there.
Yeah, although they have stacked the courts so thoroughly that they're doing their very best. You can read all about it at gregpalast.com, and you can discuss it online with Greg at Greg_Palast on Twitter. Greg, it is always great talking with you. Keep up the great work, and the extraordinary work that the Palast Investigative Fund is doing is so worth people's support. Thank you for dropping by.
You're the best, Tom. Thanks.
Back at you, Greg. Always great talking with you. We will be back. It's 15 minutes, coming up on 16 minutes past the hour.
Ask yourself